Hawkins is in danger.
Goodbye, Papa.
For the first time in my life, I think I'm thinking straight.
From Mike. Okay.
Tell her everything.
'86, baby.
It looks like we got ourselves a moron! Let's kill him, Vecna. Slash Henry. Slash one.
So, it's a ham radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ham Radio, a Stranger Things podcast. I have a very special guest with me today, her first time on the program, and we're going to be talking about Season 4's epic finale, the Piggyback. I have Jazmyne Lopez, one of the hosts of the Books and Sisters podcast. So, Jazmyne, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I am good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So before we get into the piggyback, why don't you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself, your podcast, and how you got into Stranger Things?
Yeah. I am from Washington State, and my podcast is a book club with me and my two other sisters. And we're pretty close, but life gets in the way, and so we thought it would be a really fun idea to have podcasts together where we're all book readers as well. So once a week we have that allotted time to get together and talk, and it's really fun being with my sister. So we just started it over the summer and we're loving it.
Awesome. Yeah, I love books, love to read books as well. I've actually listened to like one or two of your episodes so
Oh,
far,
awesome.
and love the dynamic y'all have going on there.
Oh,
The
thank you.
chemistry. Yeah, yeah. It's I'm really enjoying it, and also because a lot of the books you talk about I've never heard of, so it's
Oh,
always
really? Oh,
good.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Um, I know you asked about Stranger Things too, and I remember when when it first came out, and it was I feel like it was the first Netflix original that I'd ever seen, and
mhm.
so it just felt like such an epic thing to see at the time. And then there's so much time in between each season, but and I'm so bad about that because when there's too much lag time, I lose interest real fast.
Uh-huh.
But definitely this season reinvigorated it all. So I'm super excited to talk about it.
Awesome. So let's get into the piggyback, shall we?
Yes.
All right. So just kind of as a little icebreaker, I guess you say, in your mind, where does this finale episode rank in from seasons 1, 2, and 3? In
The
your
best.
opinion? Yeah.
Number one.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I this season is number one for me. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Like I enjoy this finale episode, but it did take me a little bit longer to kind of get into it. I had to watch it, like rewatch it a few times to really get
Yeah.
invested. And because the first like one or two times I watched it, I just couldn't get over all the I guess loose ends, you'd say, of like where's
Right.
Murray and why there's so many gaps left open. But then it's like you kind of have to tell yourself just calm down. There's one more season. They have time to go into this
Yep.
stuff. It's no big deal. And what always gets me every time I rewatch this episode in particular is just those last 10 to 15 minutes or so. And it
Yes.
just kind of, to me, it kind of, it sort of leaves me in awe of how far this show has come. Like
Yeah.
we've gone from this smaller, compact show, if you will, in season 1 to now a literal, epic season 4 finale with the crescendo
Right.
in music, and it looks so theatrical, and
It
I
does. Yeah.
I'm really excited as to where they take this next season. So I really
Yeah.
would say now the finale episode uh for this season is probably my favorite um out of all the seasons, because it doesn't really end with wrapping of the bows like compared to the others. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, they're killing us waiting for season 5.
Yes. It's like we
But
need
I
it
love how you
now.
said, we started with the little small Hawkins group and, in preparation of for talking with you, I was listing out everybody's name from this season so that I, remembered them. And it's, there was just a few names from season 1, and then season 5 or season 4, you have this huge list of people that are, significant
Yeah.
to the storyline, and it's crazy.
Yeah. It was definitely a crazy season, but it's good.
Yeah, very good.
Um so this finale episode was a whopping 2 hours 19 minutes in length, give or take, which caused a lot of controversy on social media. I'm sure you've seen it, on the internet.
Yes.
So in your opinion, was it too long, or was it not long enough?
No, I saw the controversy and I'm like, you guys stop. Like I loved it. I loved the fact that it was that long. And I think also because it didn't feel like there was a lot of fluff in the
Hmm.
last episode. And they did, this season was unique in that everybody was kind of spread out different places. And so you're not just following the Hawkins, in
Hmm.
Hawkins where everybody's together, but there what was I think 3 or 4 different storylines, packed into one episode. And so I feel like if it would have been any shorter, we would have been shortchanged on at least one of the storylines. But I feel
Hmm.
like with the length, it gave us enough time to really get into each one and get answers. Some answers are being left for season 5, but it didn't leave anything to be wanted, if that makes sense, between all the storylines, and it just kind of brought them all back together, which I
Yeah,
loved. So I don't know why there was controversy, but please, if every episode could be that long, that'd be amazing.
totally. Well, I actually, it was kind of funny because when I watched the very first time I watched the finale episode, and it was like the hour and 30-minute mark, I kept, pausing it. It was like, how much longer do we have, But then it was kind of funny because when it ended, I was like, what? That's it? We needed more time, And
Right.
I think one of the reasons that there was so much controversy was because originally it was supposed to be 2 hours and 30 minutes. And when
Mm,
they made the final edit, it was, you know, like 10, 11 minutes shorter. And so, of
yeah.
course, that's going to send the internet mad because what are those last 11 minutes? We saw all the set pics. Where is all that stuff? And it's like, yeah, I'm sure that they did have to make some tough calls and cut some things out there at the end. Um, but I'm like, look, we might get that next season, because
Right.
I feel like we're literally going to pick up where we left off, at least in the first episode. So it's like,
Yes.
just don't worry about it, just
I know.
just
Yeah.
see where they
And
go with it.
right. Well, I must have been on the opposite side of social media because I was seeing complaints about how long it was. Like it
Yeah,
was too
it's
long. And I'm like, you got too much information? Like that doesn't make sense to me.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we begin with the Hawkins crew, Max, Nancy, Lucas, Steve, all of them enacting their plan to take down Vecna, which they made in the previous episode. So just give everyone like your thoughts on their plan. Did you think it was a good plan, and was there anything in your mind that went they might actually have a chance with this plan?
That's a hard question because before this season released, as you know, there was all the hype about, there's going to be a lot of character deaths and,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff that's going to happen. And so I feel like that tainted at least my view going into the finale, because you're like, okay, here it comes. We're going to lose a bunch of people now. And so you're just like, that there's something that's going to go wrong with their plan. And so I feel like because of that, I was like, ooh, why are we putting Max in this situation where she's facing Vecna?
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty crazy. And then when you see everybody, in their positions of, this might not end well for, Lucas getting beat up by Jason, and Nancy and Steve and Robin getting pulled by are those vines, just by the
Mm-hmm.
vines, and the other storyline with Hopper and Joyce. So at that point you're like, okay, here it comes. And then it didn't happen, but I felt like it was a classic Hawkins group
Mm-hmm.
plan.
Yeah.
And I loved how the episode weaved together everybody, even though we were coming from a lot of different places of, the positions that they were in, it brought it together in that they were all working together to destroy Vecna, whether they knew they were or not. So, you know, was it successful? I don't know. I kind of, in a sense, they saved Max. To what capacity? I don't know. But I loved it. It was a classic Hawkins plan there.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it as well. I actually thought that they were doing pretty well with it. I mean, they were able to lure Vecna, no problems, nothing like
Yeah.
that. I mean, really, really, I think even if Vecna even if he hadn't have known what they were doing the entire time, I think they still would have had a chance against him. But Jason really fooled the plans. Like he really did. Like if
Yeah.
he hadn't have shown up or at least just left when Lucas told him to, then I do think that they could have at least managed to get Max out of the trance before,
Right.
what happened. But of course, if they did that, then there probably wouldn't be anything too bad in season 5. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I
Darn
do like.
Jason, though.
I know, but I like you said, I do like how they were able to tie all the storylines together into this plan, and they didn't. None of them knew that the other knew that they knew
Right.
what was going on, and so it somehow managed, you know, have a little bit of success, but maybe not quite what they were hoping for, I guess,
Right.
because the rift's still open, so it is what it is.
I just gotta say, they set it up for Vecna to be very hard to be destroyed in season
Yes,
5. So I
yes.
mean, they're throwing, are those Molotov cocktails at him, and he's on fire, and Nancy's with her shotgun, and
Yeah,
how are they gonna destroy him? And I don't know. It'll be interesting to
it's
find out.
oh yeah, it's gonna be spicy for sure next season.
Yeah.
So speaking of Max and some character deaths, the Duffers did something this season that they really have yet to do, and that was to kill off a main character, even for 1 minute. But
Right.
it still happened, and even though she's now alive but brain dead, I mean she's not in a very good state right now.
Right.
She's all broken. Max is all broken and all that. We really don't
Yeah.
really know what's going to happen with her next season, but just what are your thoughts on her quote unquote death, and what do you think will happen with her in season 5?
That's another thing that I'm really hoping that they make valid in season 5, because I think they should have just committed and had her die and let that be the drive, for 11 and for all of them really to just get Vecna. Um, Maybe they have a plan for that in season 5. I hope they just don't leave her as a, vegetable for the whole season just cuz. And I'm wondering how much they are taking like fan feedback of that as they're planning out season 5. Um I'm interested to find out, but I do wish that they would have committed. It's sad to lose Max. I love Max's character. Um but I think it just needed to happen that way so
Yeah.
that it was done. And they all I heard a lot of feedback of they're scared to lose a main character. I think they were, but yeah, they should have committed, let her die, and let that be the driving force for season 5. So let's see, hopefully it'll pay off.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I must say that watching Max's bones break was probably
Mm,
one of the worst things I've seen in this show thus far, because I was like, wow, I can't, like I literally was saying, like, I can't believe that they did that. I couldn't
yeah.
believe it. And I mean, I'm glad that, she's not dead, but I also am interested to see what they choose to do with her next season.
Yeah.
I have seen a theory on YouTube about this YouTuber was theorizing why he thinks they kept Max alive, but in this state was something like in it, when it like calls them all back to Derry. And he was saying like he thinks that if and when Max wakes up from her coma, that could be something that calls them back, because obviously they're going to want to talk to her and be like, where you been? you know
Right.
which at least 11 will, because she couldn't find her in the void.
Right.
So I think that could be a possibility, but like, I just really hope that they don't keep Max in the hospital bed the entire season and then kill her off at
No.
the end.
Yeah.
Like, no.
That would be
I,
horrible.
I don't really think that they will do that, because I think if they had any intents of actually killing her, they would have just done it this
Right.
season. But I do think they kept her for some part of the story to do with Vecna. That's the only thing
Yeah.
I
I
can
hope
think
so.
of. Yeah,
Yeah. But I'm with you. When her bones started breaking, I was like, whoa, this is it. It's happening. It was very well, I mean, that whole scene where everybody's you see all this action. I think that's what I loved about season 4 too, because we do have those moments in other seasons. There was just so many of them in season 4 where
yeah,
you're really you're leaning into your TV. You're like, what's gonna happen? So
yeah,
yeah, that whole scene was epic, I think.
yeah. And I like too, each each sequence with each of the storylines, none dragged any. Like when they're
No.
all putting it together, it just continued to have a good pacing, and I thought that was
Yes.
that was really nice. Um, but and also part of Max's death, which I'm hoping that they will explain next season, is how does 11 have the abilities to bring people back from the dead? Uh,
Right.
like, because we haven't seen that before. Um,
Yeah. And I'm
so
wondering if that'll play into season 5. So maybe that's why they kept Max alive, just
yeah,
to show that she had that ability.
yeah. There's so many questions.
There's
Just
so
so many
many.
questions.
Yes.
Um, so Mike, finally professes his love to 11 in this episode. And Finn Wolfhard did a wonderful job with the monologue. Like, I don't know what the hate is for about that, because it's like, this is the most Mike has done this season, really, thus far. And I know that it was probably tasteless of him to tell 11 that my life began the day I found you in the woods, which with Will standing right behind him, because that was like the
Right.
same day that Will went missing. But I'm going to overlook that for now, uh, because, in that moment, 11 really needed a little pep talk to get the strength and the encouragement to uh, release herself from those vines to hopefully save Max in time. So, do you think that, this is something that 11 will need moving forward next season as she uh, battles Vecna and the Upside Down uh, for good?
So, like, Mike's love
Yeah, or
propelling her.
just to hear words of encouragement.
Yeah. I mean, I think that she really needed it in that moment. She was dealing with this whole being defeated by, feeling like she's being defeated by Vecna. She's
Hmm.
trying, the world is on her shoulders. And I feel like that's been every season as well. But I think it was needed in that moment. I hope in season 5 they don't make it that way, because women are powerful themselves. They don't need, a man telling them, telling them
Yeah,
that that they're loved, or, so I hope she finds strength, within herself. And of course, everybody needs somebody and needs, family, friends, to be behind them. But I think she's powerful. She has the
yeah,
strength to stand up for herself. So I hope we see more of that in season 5.
yeah.
I Maybe unpopular opinion, I don't like Mike that much. And it really solidified in this season, just, and I think it's just part of that character growth and his age.
Hmm.
um I think 11's better off without him, but hopefully again they'll redeem him in season 5. We'll see.
Yeah, I just wish they would give him more meaningful stuff to do. Which hopefully, next season they will. But I thought for the most part, Mike, made some really good decisions this season, uh, in terms of everything with 11 and the plot. But yeah, I mean, he's got to be more aware of when someone is crying right beside him in a
Right.
van. I mean, he's got to do better, you know. Um,
Yes. Very self-centered this season.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So hopefully, he will not be that way next season. But
I
you know,
hope so.
yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Make me like you, Mike.
yes, please do.
Yes.
Um, but what I was gonna say was what I really like what they did in that moment was, and I love 11. Like, she's one of my favorite characters on the show. But this monologue and her feeling like she was defeated, came just after she told Vecna, if you touch her, I will kill you again. And
Mhm.
so I did like how this was somewhat of a, I guess you say, a more humbling moment of, like, you are very powerful and you can defeat this guy, but you have to know your opponent right now, and
Yeah.
you know him from when he was just a human, Henry Creel, when you were a child. And he even, like, basically said this, like, he's not that person anymore.
Right.
I mean, he's lots happened since then. And I think it was a good kind of wake up call for her to realize, okay, maybe I should, before I actually kill him, I have to, realize who he is and who I am. And
Yeah,
so it'll be interesting to see her in season 5 how she prepares herself
right.
against him.
Maybe she just needs to call him up, say, take him for a nice facial.
I know. Like, hey, I know a good plastic surgeon.
Right.
I put your nose back on, all the good things
Yes.
in life. But yeah, I like the way they did that. Having,
Yes.
you know, yeah, the whole thing was just really good. Um,
Yeah, I mean, there had to be somebody really powerful to oppose 11. And so it's really cool that they've brought this element into the show of like and of course, since we know season 5 is the last season, we're going to see this epic battle between these two powerful beings. So
yeah,
I think it's awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
And I love Vecna as a villain.
So
He
do I.
probably
I
best villain.
actually I actually wish we got more screen time with him as Vecna.
Yes.
Like I loved
Yes.
every time he was on screen because he's such a good villain.
So good. Yeah. I'm gonna be sad when it's over.
Yeah. Um so um do you think that 11 piggybacking into Max's mind really played that much of a role in the others being able to uh to stop him, or do you think that really it was Hopper and the Russian crew uh defeating the Demogorgons and stuff that weakened him, and then Nancy and Robin and Steve uh Molotoving him? Uh, which part do you think um played more of a role in uh hindering Vecna?
I don't think it was any one group. They were all necessary to where it ended up.
Hmm.
I think with 11 in there, it distracted him enough,
Yeah.
to give everybody more time. And of course, the Russian crew and Joyce and Hopper, give weakening him. And then the Hawkins crew also being able to come in and weaken him some more. And I think just with all of those different angles coming at Vecna is what made him essentially run away, because he was at a point where he's like, okay, got to step away from this
Hmm.
situation so I can, I got my last kill. Now I can start my next part of the plan. So, I think they were all essential, and I don't think any one group was more important than the other for where it ended.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a team effort there, which
Yeah,
was really good to see. That's one of the things I love about this show is when they're all together, working together for, with one goal in mind. And that's what I'm really looking
right.
forward to next season because they're all going to be in Hawkins. So, you know,
Yes. Well, and that's the other thing is since they were all over the place, they all didn't know the full story or the full arc of what was happening. So that's going to make them even more powerful, I think, in season 5 being all together. And I think that's definitely what's going to be the end of Vecna is
yeah.
the fact that they're all together working to destroy him.
So, what are your quick thoughts on Eddie's death? I know
So
it's a
sad.
really hot talking point, and I
Yeah.
usually don't like to bring it up, but I figured since you're on here, I might as well just get your opinion.
Yeah. I am so sad. While I think that Max should have died, I feel like Eddie should have taken that place if it was a matter of too many main characters, because Eddie everybody loved Eddie in the fact, his personality, the fact that he was a good friend to Dustin, where, taking the place of Steve, because Steve was, having his own issues this season and just giving Dustin a really good buddy. And he was like a really great addition, I think, to the Hawkins crew. So I wish they would have kept him alive. I think he could have been a really great part of season 5 in, the ultimate doom of Vecna. I don't see any reason for his death. I know that they built it up throughout the season of like he was running away from everything, running away from when Chrissy happened.
Mhm.
And then when was it Patrick? Was that his
Mhm.
name?
Yeah.
When he, and running away from all these situations. And then right then at that moment is when he decides to be the hero. And I'm like, no, you don't have to be the hero when you can clearly see you're gonna die. Like,
Yeah.
let's wait. But yeah, very sad. I didn't expect to cry, expect that I would have cried over, a character that was just introduced this season, but he was such an impactful character that was a great loss to the Stranger Things fans community.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked Eddie. I really thought he was probably one of the better new characters that they've had in quite some time on the show. Um, I mean, I don't really see why they couldn't, you know, why they really had to kill him off. Like, part of me is like, I mean, he can still be useful next season, but I'm like,
Yeah.
let's just see where they go with it. Um, but what I really don't like sometimes within the Stranger Things fans community is this is the worst death that this show has ever had, and it was so brutal. And I was like, I mean, it was sad. Like, the saddest part really was Dustin uh holding a dying Eddie in his arms. But I'm like, did you not see season 2 when Bob was eaten by a pack of
Right.
demodogs that they showed like the entire
Right.
scene? And like Eddie, they didn't even really show him like actually die like what happened to him. It was mostly in blood. And Eddie is like Bob. um I mean, granted, Bob did something very foolish. Like, he's just stood there, okay, instead of just getting out of there. And I mean, I thought, Eddie did at least have a little bit more of a heroic end,
He did. Yeah.
Um, but I personally think that they want Vicky, I think that's her name, from the very end, with who Robin was talking to, the redheaded chick.
Oh, yes.
I personally think that they want her to play more of a role next season. And maybe they had to sacrifice one for the other. I mean, I don't really know that for sure, but she was there with them at the end. But yeah, I just had to get your opinion on Eddie's
Yeah.
death.
Well, if that's what they did, she better be a really good character,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I don't know if that was a fair exchange.
yeah. So, Jazmyne, I'm going to end today's episode by just asking you, like, at the end of this episode, the piggyback episode, we see Will touching the back of his neck, which insinuates what we now know is Vecna is activated. And so, do you think Will play a big of a role in season 5, as some of the Stranger Things fandom has made it out to be?
That's a hard one. I mean, I feel like there's so many different directions that season 5 can go. But the fact that they did highlight that at the end of the finale, does clue us in on that Will is going to at least play some of a part. But I do hope that they do, again, just make it much more of this is a team now, everybody's involved. I'm not quite sure. So is it that they think Will is going to be a puppet for Vecna? or I've not really followed that line of thinking too much. So
Yeah, I think it's something along those lines. I think that they think he's going to be Vecna'd like we saw this season, because of his trauma and his, everything that Will has going on. But like, I don't think that Vecna's going to be doing that to people anymore because he just needed that to open the gates.
yeah,
So I think what will happen will probably be a lot worse than that. But
right,
I've seen like some fan artists out there who are making season 5 posters already, and it's got
right,
Will in the center, and like half of him's Will and half of him's Vecna because the connection,
yeah,
and I'm like, no, that's like, I know that Will is important because the Demogorgon took him. I think it's obvious that Vecna did want Will, but I don't think that Will is that important to Vecna. I
yeah,
think Vecna at that time in 1983 just saw someone like him as a child and knew that he was vulnerable and he was a little bit easier to control, to get a spy into our world to do what we've seen now.
yeah,
I mean, the Duffers, I know, have said that we'll see more of Will, but I think that's only because he'll be at Hawkins this season.
right,
And like, I think he's going to be touching the back of his neck because, I mean, he does have that connection where he can at least let them know, what's going on with Vecna. But
right.
I don't
That's
think,
a hard one.
I just don't think Will is as important to Vecna as some fans may think. Like Vecna's beef is not with Will; it's with 11.
Right,
Like,
right.
yeah, and that's what it's kind of become.
Yeah,
'Cause I just,
and he's so much more powerful now than he
yeah.
was when he was using Will. So it's like that was a means to an end at that point, but now, through all of the things that they've done over these seasons, he's much more powerful than needing a human vessel to do his dirty work
Yeah,
for him. So yeah, I gotta agree with you.
and apparently Will is gonna have powers, and it's crazy stuff. Like, on what grounds do you
Yeah,
base that off of? I mean, we don't even know why Eleven has her powers or
right.
Vecna. Like, it hasn't been explained yet in the show. But Will, I'm pretty sure, does not have powers. Like, fan theories can be fun, but they can sometimes be a little out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I think that, I feel like I'm not a deep thinker when it comes to these things. So, all
Uh,
these people that have these deep theories, I'm just like, I didn't see that happen, so I don't know. But I feel like when he touched the back of his neck, and when I interpreted that, it was just that the fact that Vecna was now in their dimension, their
mhm,
world, because, you start seeing what is that, ash or whatever the
mhm.
particles are in the air, and, all that huge gate is open. So that's how I interpreted it, is, because we saw him, feeling Vecna in the past seasons
Mhm.
when can't remember the name of the big monster from season 3, but when that was in their dimension, their world. So that's how I interpreted it, not that he was going to be a vessel for Vecna. I feel like they're beyond that.
Yeah, like I used to think that Will touched the back of his neck when the upside down, like when the gates were open with the upside down.
Yes,
But now it makes sense because it was really Vecna. When he
right.
was activated, when he was moving and stuff, that's when, Will felt him.
Yeah. Well, I do have one theory that I think that so Vecna, I feel like Papa had taken some of his DNA or something to create all the other kids with powers, and I think that 11 is a part of Vecna. I don't know if that
Yeah,
theory's out there. I do think that there's a connection between the two of them in some capacity
yeah,
like that, because one was the first one with his powers, and we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see season
And
5.
I think it's something too, like they have like the same powers, like the same abilities.
Right.
I think, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
so
it's just
I
yeah.
I actually think that Henry Krill could be her biological father.
I thought
Because
that
I mean
too.
he
Yeah.
would be old enough to be her father, and in season 4, I mean he sure does know a lot about her mother, and
Right.
and talked about a lot about her mother And I mean, it's possible, and that could be how not only how 11 has her powers, but why she's so powerful.
Right.
I mean, I know a lot of fans out there don't like that. I don't really know why, because it would really
It
make the
makes
story
sense.
yeah, it would make it only that much more interesting
Yeah.
to me to know that it's kind of like Star Wars, like when she knows like this is her father, like what are you gonna do? You gonna kill this man, your father, or
Yes.
yeah, so
Right.
because there's always like this running theme of fatherhood in the show, and 11 has Papa and then Hopper, but
Yes.
her biological father never brought up, and we know that Terry, her mother, became pregnant in the course of the program.
Right.
So
That's why I really think, either, in some way, one's DNA is part of all of the kids that have powers.
yeah,
I just have
yeah,
that gut feeling because, like you said, where did they come, where did the powers come from? So, we still wouldn't know where Henry's powers came from, but it would explain so much more of, this program that Papa had and trying to get them to tap into those powers that they should
yeah.
have coming from Henry. So, yeah.
And the Duffers did say that we would get a little bit more background on Henry and stuff next season, which I'm looking forward to, because there's
Yes.
so much there left to tell, in my opinion. So
And I just love that character. I mean, they made it so that you just want to know everything about
yeah, I want to
Vecna.
know like what his mother like. I want to know about his mother, like how she knew Brenner and what she was up like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep. So much excitement. And I love it because, like I said at the beginning, it's hard to keep that excitement for new seasons to come out. You're super hyped at the end of a finale, and then all this time passes and you're like, what happened in the last season? But I feel like this one is really just the epicness of it is sticking with, I think, everybody, and we're just, waiting with bated breath for season 5. So
yeah.
I think that's super exciting.
So, Jazmyne, before I get you out of here, what are some hopes that you have for season 5? Like, what do you hope happens? You want a happy ending, or ending that makes you cry, or
It's funny because in my mind, I keep thinking, maybe we'll get into the end of season 5 and it'll all have been this elaborate D&D game from the very beginning.
yeah,
They're back in their basement having finished this epic, game that they played. But no, I hope that at this point, everybody comes out alive. Their opportunity to kill a main character off should have been season 4. If they kill anybody off in season 5, that'll be really disappointing because we just need a good, happy ending after all of the things that they've gone through. And, I hope Vecna, we get to learn more about Vecna, like you said, and then ultimately get to see the whole group come together and just be successful against this really powerful monster. So I'm excited. I want some tears though. I love the tears. And I'm super excited for the music crescendos. So
yes, yeah. Music's
yeah.
always great in the show, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. I just want them. I really would like them all to have a happy ending, see a good wrapping to this story, and just have all our questions answered, even from season 1, and just to know what it is that they're going to do next season, how they're going to finish it, and yeah, and I will probably cry even if there is a happy ending, just because it's the last season, and it's like we're not going to get a next season. I know they've said spin-offs, but they've been very clear that they're not going to be anything like Stranger Things, so it'll be very interesting to see where they do with
Yeah.
that. Hopefully it's as good as this show is, which I think it will be if the Duffers have any involvement in it. So
Definitely. Yeah. I hope we see some good, couple arcs as well.
yeah,
So, we got to finally see Hopper and Joyce come together in this season. And then, hopefully Mike and 11 figure out what they got going on. And I'm interested also to see how they wrap up Nancy, Steve, and oh man, now I wrote down all the names and I forgot his name. Jonathan. How they wrap up that triangle. personally, I'm team Steve and Nancy, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, just seeing how all these couples work out as well. I like the romantic side of it too.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, so do I. So, Jazmyne, would you like to tell everyone where they can find you on the socials and your podcast?
Yeah. So our podcast, Books Between Sisters, is available on all streaming platforms, so wherever you get your podcast. And we are also on Instagram at BBS_pod, on Twitter at BBS_pod, and on TikTok as BBS_pod. So find us anywhere, and I hope we get to have you as a guest at some point
Yeah,
as well.
I'd love
That'd be
to.
awesome.
Just let me know whenever you would let me on. I'd love to join you guys.
Yes, absolutely. That'll be great.
All right, so thank you again, Jazmyne, for joining us today on the Ham Radio, and we'll see you guys next week, and over and out.